Commander Alan Wright stared at the large screen in front of him. The blinking dots that had appeared at the edge of their solar system 12 hours ago were still there. More dots had joined them. These were not meteors or space junk. They moved with purpose. "Get me a closer look," Alan said to his team on the Sentinel space station. His second-in-command, Lisa Miller, worked quickly at her console. "Magnifying now, sir." The image zoomed in. The shapes were smooth and oval, with strange markings along their sides. They were ships. Alien ships. "How many?" Alan asked, his voice steady despite the shock. 27 vessels of various sizes," Lisa replied. "The largest is about twice the size of our biggest carrier." Alan took a deep breath. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. He pressed the red button on his command panel. "This is Commander Wright of Earth Defense Station Sentinel. I am declaring a first contact scenario. This is not a drill." Within an hour, the United Council had gathered in an emergency meeting. Representatives from all nations watched the live feed from Sentinel. The alien fleet had slowed its approach but continued moving toward Mars. "They're sending a signal," said Communications Officer Pete Davis. "It's coming through on all frequencies." A voice filled the command center. It spoke in perfect English, though with an odd melody to its words. "People of Earth, we are the Vorax. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations. We request permission to set up a small diplomatic outpost on your fourth planet." The council debated for hours. Some wanted to welcome the visitors with open arms. Others, like Alan, urged caution. "They know our language too well," Alan said during the video conference. "That means they've been watching us for some time without making themselves known." "Why?" Council President Donna Garcia nodded. "A fair point, Commander. What do you suggest?" "Ask them more questions before we agree to anything. Find out why they chose now to reveal themselves. What exactly do they want from us?" The council voted to send a response asking for more information. The Vorax answered quickly, explaining they were explorers who had studied Earth from afar. They claimed they needed the Mars outpost to rest and refuel before continuing their journey. When pressed for details about their technology and homeworld, they became vague. Their answers seemed rehearsed to Alan. "I don't trust them," Alan told his friend Dr. Olivia Bennett when she arrived on Sentinel 2 days later. Olivia was Earth's top expert in language and communication. The council had sent her to help with the talks. "That's why I'm here," Olivia said, studying the transcripts of the Vorax messages, "to find what they're not telling us." Despite Alan's concerns, the council voted to allow the Vorax a small base on Mars, with strict limits on their activities. The first alien ship landed 3 days later. Alan watched from Sentinel as Olivia and a small team went to meet the visitors. The ship's door opened slowly, releasing a puff of strange blue mist. Then they appeared, tall, thin beings with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Welcome to our solar system," Olivia said, stepping forward. The lead alien bowed slightly. "We thank you for your hospitality." As they spoke, Alan noticed something odd. The alien's mouth movements didn't match its words exactly. And sometimes, it seemed to react to things before Olivia said them. Alan typed a private message to Olivia's tablet. "Something's not right. Be careful." Olivia gave no sign she had seen the message, but she subtly changed her questions, asking things in a different order than they had planned. The alien hesitated, just for a moment. That was all Alan needed to see. The Vorax were hiding something, and he would find out what it was before they got too comfortable on Mars. 6 months had passed since the Vorax arrived. Their small outpost on Mars had grown into a large complex. They claimed it was just for research and trade, but Alan Wright still didn't trust them. They requested permission for one more supply ship again, Lisa told Alan as they looked at the latest satellite images of the Vorax base. Alan frowned. "That's the 3rd supply ship this month, each one bigger than the last." On Earth, strange things were happening. Farmers in the Midwest reported their crops dying for no clear reason. Coastal cities experienced unusual tides. And most concerning to Alan, the global communications network suffered from random outages. Lieutenant Gregory Hayes walked into Alan's office on Sentinel Station with a thick folder. Greg worked for military intelligence and had been tracking all the unusual events. "It's not random," Greg said, spreading maps and charts on Alan's desk. "Look at this pattern. Every problem happens within 48 hours of a Vorax ship passing that area." Alan studied the evidence. "They're doing something to our planet." "But what? And why?" added Greg. "The Council keeps accepting their excuses, but I think we need to act now." Meanwhile, Dr. Olivia Bennett had been working day and night in her lab. She had recorded hours of Vorax speech and was analyzing every sound and pattern. "There's a secondary communication layer," she explained to Alan over a secure video call. "When they speak, they're saying one thing out loud, but there's a subvocal element carrying different information." "Can you decode it?" Alan asked. "Parts of it," Olivia replied. "Enough to know they're not being honest with us." The next day, Alan, Greg, and Olivia presented their findings to the United Council. The Vorax representative, who called himself Ambassador Krell, was invited to respond. "These accusations are false," Krell said smoothly. "The issues you describe are natural phenomena or problems with your own technology. We are guests here, seeking only peaceful exchange." Many council members nodded in agreement. The Vorax had provided some helpful medical knowledge and promised more advanced technology soon. "If you continue these hostile investigations," Krell added, "we may need to reconsider our diplomatic presence here." After the meeting, President Garcia took Alan aside. "I understand your concerns, Commander, but we can't risk offending them based on circumstantial evidence." "With respect, Madam President, I believe we're running out of time," Alan replied. That night, Olivia made a breakthrough. She called Alan at 3 in the morning, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "I cracked more of their subvocal code," she said. "Alan, they're talking about something called Phase 2 that begins next week. They mentioned Earth has a unique mineral composition they need, and they referred to humans as obstacles. Send me everything you have," Alan said grimly. "I'll contact Greg." The three met secretly at a small cabin in the mountains. They knew the Council would not act in time based only on translated alien whispers. "The Vorax ships are positioning themselves in a specific pattern around Earth," Greg explained, showing them a 3D model. "If they were planning an attack, this would be an ideal formation." "We need a defense plan," Alan said. "Something they won't expect." Olivia nodded. "I've identified weaknesses in their communication system. We could use that. And I've been mapping their energy signatures," Greg added. "Their weapons and shields have limitations." Alan looked at his friends, feeling the weight of their discovery. "We have no authorization for this. If we're wrong, our careers are over. And if we're right and do nothing?" Olivia asked quietly. The decision was made. They would prepare in secret, gathering trusted allies and resources. They had less than a week before whatever Phase 2 would begin. As they worked through the night, news came that 3 more Vorax ships had entered the solar system, much larger than any seen before. And they weren't heading to Mars. The attack came at dawn. Without warning, Vorax ships fired bright purple beams at military bases around the world. Communication centers went dark. Power grids failed in major cities. On Sentinel Station, alarms blared as Alan rushed to the command center. "Status report," he shouted over the chaos. "Multiple impacts on Earth's surface," Lisa replied, her face pale. "Defense bases in North America, Asia, and Europe are hit. We've lost contact with most military commands." Alan had feared this moment, but it had come sooner than expected. "What about our hidden assets?" Greg entered the room, tablet in hand. "Still secure," The bunker in Colorado is untouched. So are the underwater bases. 6 weeks earlier, Alan, Greg, and Olivia had convinced a few key military leaders to prepare secret facilities, hiding some of Earth's best weapons and personnel. These leaders had acted quietly, without council approval. The Vorax don't know about them, Greg said. They targeted only the official bases on their maps. What about Olivia? Alan asked, worried for his friend. Safe. She got to the Colorado bunker yesterday. A message appeared on the main screen. It was Ambassador Krell. People of Earth, your leaders refuse to give us what we need, so we must take it. Surrender now, and some of you may live as our workers. Resist, and you will all die. President Garcia appeared next. She looked shaken but determined. This is President Garcia. The United Council has declared a state of global emergency. All nations are now under unified command to defend Earth against this unprovoked alien attack. Alan's secure phone rang. It was the President herself. Commander Wright, I should have listened to you, she said. Now I need your help. The Council has voted to appoint Admiral Susan Carter as Supreme Commander of Earth Forces. Report to her immediately. Within hours, Alan and Greg were in the Colorado bunker with Olivia. The facility was deep underground, filled with military personnel and the best scientists Earth had. Admiral Carter was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She wasted no time. Our conventional forces are taking heavy losses, she said. But the Vorax have made a critical mistake. They think one strike was enough to cripple us. She showed them a tactical display. They're spreading out, focusing on resource extraction rather than finishing our military. That gives us time to regroup. Olivia stepped forward. I've been intercepting their communications. They're sending regular updates to their fleet. If we can decode their encryption fully, we'll know their next moves. Alan nodded. And we have something they don't expect. He led them to a hangar area. Inside were 5 experimental spacecraft, smaller than traditional fighters but equipped with new technology. These ships have stealth capabilities and enhanced shields, Alan explained. A joint project between nations that the Vorax don't know about. Greg added, my intelligence team discovered something else. This Vorax group is just a vanguard. Their main fleet is still months away. Admiral Carter absorbed this news. Then we have time. Not much, but enough to organize a proper defense. The Vorax have a weakness, Olivia said. Their tactical systems are rigid, algorithmic. They don't adapt well to unexpected strategies. Humanity has been fighting wars against itself for thousands of years, Admiral Carter said grimly. We know how to be unpredictable. They worked through the night, developing plans and contacting surviving military units around the world. Resistance cells formed in occupied areas. Scientists began studying captured Vorax technology. 3 days later, Alan led the first counterattack. His small fleet of stealth ships approached a Vorax mining operation in Australia. The aliens had set up massive machines that were drilling deep into the Earth. Remember, Alan told his pilots, hit and run. Don't engage directly. Use the terrain to your advantage. The human ships struck from multiple directions, firing with precision before disappearing behind mountains and clouds. The confused Vorax sent ships in pursuit, only to find nothing. By the time they returned to defend their mining operation, it was destroyed. The human ships were gone. It was a small victory, but an important one. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had successfully struck back. Admiral Susan Carter stood in the war room of the Colorado bunker, looking at the large map of Earth. Red markers showed areas under Vorax control. Blue markers showed human-resistant strongholds. After 2 weeks of fighting, there were still more blue than red. Their advance has slowed, she told the gathered military leaders. Our hit-and-run tactics are working. Alan nodded. The Vorax expect us to fight like they do, head-on, following standard patterns. When we don't, it confuses them. Olivia entered the room with new information. I've decoded more of their communications. The Vorax commanders are angry. They expected to control Earth within days. Good, said Admiral Carter. Angry enemies make mistakes. In a lab nearby, engineer Kyle Rodriguez was studying a captured Vorax weapon. He had taken it apart and put it back together several times. Their technology isn't as advanced as we thought, he told Alan later that day. It's just different. We can adapt our systems to counter theirs. Kyle had already modified human weapons to penetrate Vorax shields. Now his team was working on improving Earth's defensive capabilities. The resistance was growing stronger. In Europe, farmers destroyed roads and bridges to slow Vorax mining vehicles. In Asia, former soldiers trained civilians to fight. In Africa, tribal warriors used their knowledge of the land to ambush alien patrols. Lieutenant Greg Hayes coordinated these resistance cells from the bunker. Humans have been fighting guerrilla wars for centuries, he explained to Admiral Carter. The Vorax have no experience with this kind of conflict. A month into the war, Alan led a daring raid on a Vorax communications center in what used to be San Francisco. His team captured valuable data before destroying the facility. Olivia studied the data for days without rest. When she finally emerged from her lab, her eyes were bright with excitement. The Vorax have sent a distress call to their home world, she reported to Admiral Carter. They're asking for more ships, more weapons. They admit they underestimated us. How long until reinforcements arrive? Admiral Carter asked. At least 4 months, based on the distance described in their message. Admiral Carter called a meeting of all command staff. We have 4 months to prepare for a much larger invasion force. We need to retake key positions and develop better weapons before they arrive. The next phase of the war began. Human forces became more organized and coordinated. Kyle and his team of engineers built new ships using a combination of Earth and Vorax technology. Greg's intelligence network spread worldwide, gathering information on Vorax activities and weaknesses. Olivia continued to intercept and decode alien communications, giving humans advance warning of Vorax operations. Alan took command of the growing space fleet. Training pilots was challenging. Many had never been in space before, but humans learned quickly. We're not just fighting for survival now, Alan told his pilots. We're fighting to show the Vorax they made a terrible mistake attacking Earth. 3 months into the war, humans had retaken control of several key regions. The Vorax were now confined mainly to their large mining operations and space stations. Admiral Carter developed a bold new strategy. The Vorax think we're just trying to push them off Earth, she said. They don't realize we're preparing to take the fight to space. She revealed her plan to Alan, Greg, Olivia, and Kyle. When their reinforcements arrive, they'll expect to find us hiding on our planet. Instead, we'll be waiting for them among the stars. The human fleet grew larger each week. Old satellites were converted into weapon platforms. The moon became a base for long-range fighters. Alan supervised a test of the new weapon systems in orbit around Earth. The energy beams were more powerful than anything humans had built before. Will it be enough? Greg asked, watching from the command center. It has to be, Alan replied. We won't get a second chance. As the 4-month mark approached, long-range sensors detected movement at the edge of the solar system. The Vorax main fleet had arrived early. But this time, Earth was ready. The Vorax main fleet entered the solar system with over 200 ships. They were larger and more heavily armed than the first wave. Their massive command ship was the size of a small moon. They think they're arriving to help their invasion force, Admiral Carter said as she watched the fleet's approach on the main screen. They don't know the situation has changed. The human military leaders gathered in the war room to finalize their plan. Earth now had 50 space warships of various sizes, all equipped with modified Vorax technology. It was not enough to win in a direct battle, but they had other advantages. Admiral, Alan said, I'd like to lead a mission to infiltrate their command ship. If we can access their central computer, we could gain valuable intelligence. Admiral Carter considered the proposal. It's risky, but potentially worth it. Take a small team. The rest of our fleet will engage their outer ships to create a distraction. Greg showed them a 3D map of the solar system. We've placed stealth satellites throughout the system. They'll allow us to track Vorax movements and communicate even if they jam our main channels. Olivia had been studying the Vorax language and codes for months now. I can help create fake communications to confuse their ships, she offered. As the Vorax fleet approached Mars, they sent a message to their forces on Earth. Overlord Zex, the supreme commander of all Vorax forces, appeared on the screen. He was taller than other Vorax, with darker blue skin and eyes that seemed to burn with ambition. "Report your status," he demanded. The humans intercepted this message. Using Olivia's knowledge of Vorax communication patterns, they sent back carefully edited footage that made it seem like the invasion was proceeding as planned. The deception worked. The main fleet continued its approach, unaware of the trap being set. Alan prepared his team for the infiltration mission. They would use a captured Vorax shuttle that Kyle had modified with additional stealth features. "Our goal is to get in, download their central database, and get out," Alan told his team of 6 soldiers. "We avoid combat if possible." As the human fleet moved into position behind the moon, Admiral Carter addressed all personnel. "Today we show the Vorax that humanity will not be conquered. We are fighting for our home, our families, and our future." The battle began when the Vorax fleet reached Earth orbit. They were surprised to find human ships waiting for them, using weapons similar to their own. During the chaos, Alan's shuttle approached the massive command ship. Using codes from captured Vorax communication devices, they gained entry to a secondary docking bay. Inside the ship, they moved carefully through the corridors. The ship was enormous, with hundreds of Vorax moving about. Alan's team wore captured Vorax armor, modified to fit human bodies. From a distance, they would not be noticed. They reached the central computer room after an hour of tense navigation through the ship. 2 guards stood at the entrance. Alan signaled his team, and they stunned the guards quickly and quietly. Inside, they found more than they had hoped for. The computer contained not just battle plans, but the entire history of Vorax conquests. Alan downloaded everything while his team kept watch. What they learned was disturbing. Earth was the 13th planet the Vorax had invaded. The previous 12 were now lifeless, stripped of resources and abandoned. "They're not just invaders," Alan said grimly as he looked at the data. "They're planet killers." With the information secured, they returned to their shuttle. The battle outside continued to rage. Human ships were holding their own, but taking heavy damage. Back on Earth, Admiral Carter received Alan's transmission. She immediately called an emergency meeting. "We need to send a message," she said, "not just to the Vorax here, but to their entire species." She drafted a warning to be broadcast on all frequencies in the Vorax language. Thanks to Olivia's translations. "Attention Vorax forces, we have discovered the truth about your previous conquests. Leave our solar system immediately, or face extinction. This is not a negotiation." Overlord Zex received the message on his command ship. He laughed, a harsh sound that echoed around his bridge. "Extinction," he said to his officers. "These humans are primitive creatures. They cannot possibly threaten our species." He ordered his fleet to increase their attack. Show them what real power looks like. Overlord Zex had made a fatal mistake. He had underestimated humanity's determination to survive. Dr. Olivia Bennett worked without rest for 3 days after Alan's team returned with the Vorax data. She was looking for something specific in the thousands of files they had stolen. "I found it," she said finally, her voice tired but excited. "Something the Vorax have been hiding from us." She called Admiral Carter, Alan, Greg, and Kyle to her lab. On her screen was a strange pattern of waves and vibrations. The Vorax evolved on a planet with almost no geological activity, Olivia explained. No earthquakes, no volcanoes. Their bodies never adapted to handle certain types of vibrations. Kyle leaned forward, studying the data. You mean they're physically vulnerable to seismic waves? Exactly, Olivia said. Strong vibrations at specific frequencies disrupt their nervous systems. It's like extreme motion sickness for them. But worse, it can completely incapacitate them. Admiral Carter understood immediately. Can we develop weapons based on this? Already working on it, Kyle said. We can modify our sonic equipment to generate these exact frequencies. While Kyle and his team developed the new weapons, Greg focused on another critical mission. The Vorax had established massive mining operations across Earth, extracting minerals at a rate that was causing environmental damage. We need to retake those mining sites, Greg told his Special Forces teams, not just to stop the damage, but to cut off their supply chain. The first test of the vibration weapons came 3 days later at a mining facility in what used to be Canada. Greg led a small team equipped with the devices Kyle had created. The Vorax guards at the facility fell to the ground almost instantly when the humans activated the weapons. They writhed in pain, unable to stand or fight back. It works, Greg reported back to Admiral Carter. We took the entire facility without firing a single conventional shot. Within 2 weeks, human forces had recaptured most of the major mining operations. The Vorax were forced to retreat to their ships in orbit. Overlord Zex was furious. How are they doing this? He demanded of his scientists. Fix whatever weakness they've discovered. But the Vorax could not change their basic biology. Their nervous systems were inherently vulnerable to the vibrations humans now used against them. Admiral Carter implemented the next phase of her plan. We need to make the Vorax believe we're abandoning Earth, she told her commanders. Make it look like we're retreating in panic. Human forces began a carefully staged withdrawal from major cities and military bases. Refugee ships launched from Earth, heading to the Moon and Mars. In reality, these ships carried soldiers and weapons. The trap is set, Admiral Carter told Allen. Once the Vorax main fleet fully commits to Earth, believing we've given up, we'll spring our surprise. Allen now commanded 20 advanced warships hidden in the shadow of the Moon. Each was equipped with the new vibration weapons, scaled up to affect entire Vorax vessels. Overlord Zex watched with satisfaction as human forces appeared to flee. They recognized their defeat, he told his commanders. Move our main harvesting ships into position. We will strip this planet in half the usual time. The massive Vorax resource ships descended toward Earth. They were the size of small cities, designed to extract minerals on an enormous scale. As they entered the atmosphere, Admiral Carter gave the signal. Now, Allen's fleet emerged from hiding, not just from behind the Moon, but from concealed positions near Earth's poles and in the asteroid belt. They moved with precision, forming a complex pattern around the solar system. At the same time, the human ships that had appeared to flee toward Mars turned around. They were not refugee vessels but warships. Kyle activated the orbital defense grid, hundreds of satellites that had been quiet until now. They powered up, creating a web of energy around Earth. Overlord Zex stared at his tactical display in shock. The humans had not been retreating in fear. They had been executing a carefully planned strategy. All Vorax ships, attack immediately, Zex ordered. But it was too late. The human forces had positioned themselves in a formation the Vorax had never seen before. They controlled every approach to Earth and every hyperspace exit point from the solar system. For the first time in their history of conquest, the Vorax found themselves trapped. The battle began as Vorax ships tried to break through the human blockade. Space lit up with energy beams and explosions. The human fleet was smaller, but their new vibration weapons gave them a critical advantage. Target their command vessels first, Allen ordered his fleet. Disrupt their chain of command. The human ships moved with unexpected patterns, constantly changing formation. This confused the Vorax, who relied on predictable battle algorithms. They keep adapting, a Vorax officer reported to Overlord Zex. Our targeting computers cannot predict their movements. Zex pounded his control panel in frustration. They are primitive beings. How can they outmaneuver us? What Zex didn't understand was that human pilots acted on instinct and creativity, not just logic and patterns. Each ship commander made independent decisions based on the changing situation. Admiral Carter directed the battle from her command center on the moon. "Activate Phase 2, she ordered after the first hour of fighting. Across the solar system, hidden defense platforms came online. These had been built in secret during the months of preparation. They created a web of crossfire that trapped Vorax ships between multiple weapons. On Earth, Kyle activated the planetary defense grid. Thousands of small vibration emitters, hidden in the ground and oceans, began projecting waves upward. Any Vorax ship that came too close to the atmosphere suffered immediate systems failure. The vibrations are working better than expected," Kyle reported. "Their ships are completely vulnerable when hit from multiple directions." Olivia monitored Vorax communications from her station next to Admiral Carter. "They're confused and starting to panic," she said. "Some ships are trying to retreat." This was exactly what the humans had planned for. As Vorax vessels attempted to flee, they discovered that every hyperspace exit point was covered by human ships. "We can't escape," a Vorax captain transmitted to the command ship. "They're everywhere." For the first time in their history of conquest, the Vorax faced a species that had not only resisted them, but had turned the tables completely. Alan led his flagship toward the massive Vorax command vessel. "Time for a direct message," he told his crew. Using the communication codes Olivia had provided, he transmitted a video signal directly to Overlord Zex. The image of Alan in his human uniform appeared on the Vorax command screen. "Vorax forces, this is Commander Alan Wright of Earth," he said calmly. "Your ships are trapped. Your weapons are failing against our defenses. You have one final chance to surrender." Zex roared in anger. "Humans are nothing. We have conquered 12 worlds before yours. And that is why you will never leave this solar system if you continue fighting," Alan replied. "We know what you did to those other planets. We've seen your records. You left them dead and empty." Alan's face was replaced by images from the Vorax's own database, showing the devastated planets they had stripped bare. Those worlds couldn't fight back. Alan continued as his face reappeared. "We can. Surrender now, or be destroyed." To emphasize his point, a group of human ships demonstrated their new weapons on an abandoned Vorax mining vessel. The ship shuddered and then went completely dark as the vibrations disrupted all its systems. Olivia had worked with Kyle to add another element to their strategy. She broadcast a message to all Vorax ships, bypassing their commanders. The message explained in the Vorax language how their leaders had lied about human capabilities and how continued fighting would lead to their destruction. "Many of your fellow soldiers have already been captured," her message said. "They are being treated well. You do not need to die for your leaders' mistakes." Doubt spread through the Vorax fleet. Several smaller ships powered down their weapons, signaling surrender. Overlord Zex watched in disbelief as his once mighty armada began to crumble. Ship after ship reported system failures or surrendered outright. The vibration weapons had made their advanced technology useless. He had never imagined that the primitive humans could develop such an effective strategy. The Vorax had always relied on their technological superiority and rigid battle plans. They had no experience with an enemy that adapted so quickly and fought so unpredictably. As his flagship took heavy damage from multiple directions, Zex finally realized the truth. The humans had not just been lucky. They had studied the Vorax, found their weakness, and exploited it perfectly. For the first time in his life, Overlord Zex considered the unthinkable option: surrender. Overlord Zex stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship. Half of his control panels sparked with electricity. 3 of his officers lay unconscious from the effects of the human vibration weapons. "We cannot win this battle," his second-in-command said quietly. Zex knew it was true. More than 60 of his ships had surrendered. Another 40 had been disabled. The humans had lost vessels too, but their formations remained strong and determined. For the first time in Vorax history, a surrender signal went out from a command ship. Alan received the message on his flagship. "Relay this to Admiral Carter immediately," he ordered. At the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Carter read the surrender terms Zex had proposed. The Vorax leader wanted to retreat with his remaining ships. "Unacceptable," she said firmly. "They destroyed 12 worlds before ours. They don't get to leave and potentially return later." She drafted new terms. The Vorax would surrender all their ships. They could return to their homeworld only in transport vessels under human escort. They would transfer all their technology to Earth and pay for the damage they had caused. When Zex received these terms, he raged for several minutes. Then, looking at his crippled fleet on the tactical display, he slumped in defeat. "Send our acceptance," he said bitterly. The formal surrender ceremony took place on neutral ground, a platform built between Earth and lunar orbit. Overlord Zex, once proud and arrogant, signed the document with shaking hands. Lieutenant Greg Hayes oversaw the dismantling of Vorax mining operations on Earth. Teams of scientists and engineers studied how to repair the environmental damage. "Some areas will take years to recover," Greg reported, "but the process has begun." Kyle led efforts to integrate Vorax technology with human systems. "Their power generation methods are impressive," he told Admiral Carter. "And their space travel technology will help us explore beyond our solar system." The captured Vorax ships were studied carefully. Some were modified for human use. Others were taken apart to understand their construction. Olivia made perhaps the most important discovery. In the Vorax historical records, she found mentions of other spacefaring species. "There's an entire galactic community out there," she explained to Alan and Admiral Carter. "The Vorax kept us isolated because they knew other civilizations might protect us." Admiral Carter saw an opportunity. "We need to make contact with these other species. Show them what the Vorax have been doing." Alan and Olivia were appointed as Earth's first ambassadors to the wider galaxy. They prepared evidence of Vorax crimes against multiple worlds, including testimony from captured Vorax officers who had grown disillusioned with their leaders. 6 months after the final battle, a special council gathered on a neutral space station built by several alien civilizations. Representatives from 24 species attended, many traveling great distances to hear Earth's case. Alan presented the evidence clearly and calmly. He showed images of devastated planets and Vorax mining operations. He played recordings of Overlord Zex's orders to strip Earth bare. "The Vorax have been allowed to continue these atrocities because no one stood up to them," Alan told the council. Earth did. The council deliberated for 3 days. Their decision was unanimous. The Vorax would be confined to their home system for 100 years. They would pay reparations to help restore the worlds they had damaged. As a new member of the galactic community, Earth gained respect and allies. Human adaptability and determination impressed the other species. When the last Vorax prisoner ships departed Earth under human escort, Olivia intercepted a message sent from one alien civilization to another. "Be warned," it said. "The humans of Earth are not to be underestimated. They defend their world fiercely. They are clever and resourceful. Most importantly, they show mercy in victory, a sign of true strength." Alan stood on the observation deck of Sentinel Station, looking at the stars. The same view that had shown him the approaching threat now represented possibility and hope. "What do you think is out there?" Olivia asked, joining him. "Friends and enemies," he replied. "But now, they all know one thing for certain." "What's that?" Alan smiled. "When Earth issues a warning, it's wise to listen."